Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome. We're here today not for a generic conversation about fintech or finance, but to explore a much bigger and important question. Can Warsaw step into the vacuum created by Brexit and position itself as a true financial capital of Europe? Let's talk about the European chessboard. Because thanks to Brexit, London's dominance has been fundamentally challenged. Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, they've all made strategic moves, but none has emerged as a singular successor. Frankfurt made a move on regulations, Paris gained some trading desk, and Amsterdam has a big increase in clearing infrastructure. And Warsaw, well, you have the best performing stock exchange in Europe. So what makes this moment critical is that Warsaw has advantages that cities in the other European countries don't. A modern digital banking infrastructure, a proven track record in payment innovation, and a regional position at the heart of a 140 million population spanning Poland, the Baltics, Ukraine, and the broader Central Eastern Europe. But the opportunity is not automatic. It must be won through strategy, execution, and global credibility. Today, we'll walk through this in 5 distinct chapters. The post-Brexit landscape, Warsaw's infrastructure edge, the UniCredit Vodeno acquisition, pan-European scaling strategies, and the concrete steps required for Warsaw to become a true financial hub. And before we dive in, let me introduce our very distinguished panelists, who each bring a unique vantage point on this evolving story. First, we have Wojciech Sobieraj. Most recently, the chairman of Aion Bank and CEO of Vodeno. Before this, Wojciech founded Alior Bank in 2008 during the global financial crisis, raising over $1 billion in initial investment, and as we now know, is the 10th largest banking group in Poland. He built Vodeno, a cloud-based, blockchain-enabled banking platform, powering fully digital bank. And just 2 weeks ago, congratulations, UniCredit acquired both Vodeno and Aion Bank, marking its return to the Polish market. Welcome, Wojciech. Next, we have Krzysztof Bratos, board member at mBank, one of Poland's most innovative digital banks. mBank is a pioneer in online banking, is majority owned by Commerzbank, and interestingly, a bank that UniCredit once tried but failed to acquire. Evolving story. Krzysztof brings both institutional perspective and deep insight into how Poland's digital-first banking model developed. Welcome, Krzysztof. And we won't hold it against you that you're from the school down the river. So next we have Michal Wodnicki. Michal is a partner at Strategy, and for those who don't know, it's a strategy consulting arm of PwC. Michal leads their financial service practice in Poland and brings a rare combination of global strategy insight and local context. Today, he'll help us benchmark Warsaw's progress against other financial centers around the world. Welcome, Michal. Next, and last but not least, we have Dariusz Mazurkiewicz. Dariusz is the CEO of BLIK, Poland's homegrown payment solutions. Under his leadership, BLIK has reached dominant market penetration and is now poised to expand across Europe. His work demonstrates what innovation looks like when Polish fintech truly competes at scale. Welcome, Dariusz. So let's start with this. A question to all of you, and please take turns in answering. Where does Warsaw currently stand in this race? Is it leveraging its opportunity or missing it? What makes a city uniquely competitive in today's financial landscape? Let's start with Wojciech.
So, thanks. Answering your question, Warsaw is definitely well positioned to become one of the major players in the technology on a European scale. But I believe this is the opportunity for the future that is not being fully explored yet. The components are here, which you partially mentioned, the good infrastructure, and especially the pool of talent and ability and willingness to experiment and to go with the new solutions. I think this is already here. But on the other hand, this is not the place where you look for hundreds and tens and hundreds of the fintechs that are created and flooding Europe. Not yet. So this is opportunities to be explored, I would say.
Yeah, so just adding to that, I do think Warsaw has the potential to play a much bigger role as a financial center, as a financial hub within Europe. Has a very competitive banking market, has, I think, world-class solutions which have been implemented, has a very strong BPO, business process offshoring group of hundreds of thousands of employees working for the largest financial institutions in the world. And all of these pieces are very, very important. It's low cost compared to some of the places you mentioned, London, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Paris. However, to fully capture this, I really believe there are two big changes which need to happen. One is around regulation and basically over-regulation, which is a burden on the Polish financial market. The Polish Supervisory Authority, KNF, the central bank, whenever there's a European regulation that's implemented, in almost all cases, always takes that regulation to the extreme and pushes basically the amount and the burden of regulation which is required. Their argument being that that creates a safer banking and financial environment, but the cost of that is high. The cost of that is lack of speed. The cost is people, companies you have to employ to address an overburdened regulation. So that would be one element I would strongly encourage the regulator to rethink its approach and start to ride the wave of deregulation. And I think it's high time for that. And maybe the second piece I'll just add is taxes, and specifically the banking tax, which always discourages investment and discourages innovation because people don't like to pay taxes. And if you can pay less tax, you'll pay less tax. And you'll look for the country, the city where those taxes are lower. And Poland is losing out because of certain tax disadvantages.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a fantastic meeting. So I would say that in Poland, we are really lucky to have to operate in a big economy, fourth economy in Europe, with almost 40 million population, 38, with a huge immigration from Ukraine, which is reinforcing our economy as well. And this gave us the opportunity really to scale fantastic fintech solutions. Sometimes someone might say that Polish fintech ecosystem or Polish startups are, I would say, a little bit lazy because it's just enough to scale and to reach a certain level of maturity just operating only in Poland. Partially it's true, but I think that right now we are coming to a certain stage of the development of our highly scaled solutions when Poland is just simply not enough for us. And probably we don't have such a long tradition of exporting our fintech technologies like, I don't know, the Netherlands or even Lithuania. But right now we are in a great position, in a great moment when we are bravely looking around and we have our first fantastic implementations outside Poland, which is a nice, I would say, prognostic for the future of fintech, which one of them is, of course, Aion Vodeno.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you as well for the invitation. Proud to be here, and great event by MIT. Tiffany as well, well done on pronunciation of our names. It's not easy to do it in Polish, so you can easily move here. Now, answering your question whether the Poland or Warsaw can be a next London and should people move here, I prefer to say the practice as you preach, and I actually used to live for 10 years in London and I used to work there, and I moved back to Poland quite a few years ago to continue my career, so a living proof that Warsaw can be better than London, although I still love that country. I think it can be great because the standard of living here is higher when you compare the costs and the salaries, so it's very attractive. It's very safe in here, far safer than in many European countries. We talk that we're cheaper, but I wouldn't like to use this argument because hopefully in a few years' time we will not be chosen for the price. I think we have an amazing talent in here. There's a lot of universities, there's a lot of polytechnics who are educating, especially in the maths areas, on the statistics areas, something that is super important both for IT development, but also the AI era. So I think the talent is here. Yes, the regulation is probably a bit more problematic, and this is something that is stopping us, but I think in terms of a potential, what you can find in the country, what you can find kind of a talent, then it's absolutely in here. But the reason why we don't have that many fintechs in Poland, I have a different answer to that, but I'll save that for later. So just to keep you interested. Thank you.
So we're hearing a lot of things, and I want to dig deeper into why Warsaw may have a unique shot. We heard there's some challenges, regulation, tax, but there's also opportunity. You have great talents, the cost, and other things. And one unique thing about Poland is that unlike many Western countries, Poland's financial system wasn't built around legacy tech. It emerged in the 1990s and 2000s, fully digital and innovative from the start. And that was a time when, you know, it's very unthinkable for many countries. So my question to Krzysztof is that Poland built one of Europe's most advanced banking infrastructure from the ground up, digitally, efficiently, and with a clear innovative mandate, especially in the time frame I just mentioned, 1990s, early 2000s. mBank is a prime example of that success story and has sustained its digital leadership for decades. Given this strong foundation, why do you think Poland has not produced more fintech challengers in the space? Is this the case of the banks being too good to disrupt? Or is there something else in the ecosystem holding back broader fintech emergence?
So I think I alluded in the previous answer. mBank was created in the year of 2000 as a digital bank, and the people from Poland, they know it well, but the people from abroad may not. The 2000, just to put it into perspective, this is 7 years before iPhone was invented. 7 years before iPhone was invented, someone comes up with the idea of digital bank, and quite a few banks followed. As you said, we didn't have this legacy infrastructure. That's why everything that was built was fairly already modern. It's like once I traveled across Africa and realized that in many countries there are no telephone landlines because they were already built through the mobile ecosystem, and no one needed to invest in that old school part. And the same happened in Poland. You didn't need to come up with those, paying with the checks and too much cash, because you could build the new ecosystem. And to be honest, it's obviously a success of mBank, but it's a success of many Polish banks that created something that is very, very modern. And literally, there was no room for the fintechs to enter because that space was really taken. To the point of innovation that we've mentioned BLIK, and we have Dariusz here who will talk about it. Actually, BLIK is one of the most innovative payment systems in this part of Europe, and that was actually created by the consortium of few banks. So, it was the banks that were saying that the fintechs will come. Can we be the step ahead of us? But I don't want this to sound that there isn't a room for the innovation and there isn't a room for fintech and a great talent to be coming to Warsaw. Maybe those people can join banks. Maybe those people can join BLIK and those established institutions. And to be honest, in this regulated environment, you need a scale. The established banks who have like millions of clients, and they can test a certain solution straight away on, are far better positions than anyone that can come up with a new idea, but then we'll need millions and we'll need years to build that mass, and it will be really, really hard to get to how you advance with a traditional ecosystem. So I think Poland is very different, but I think it's just a proof that the talent is here, and if focused and if put together right, it can even defend itself from the world of fintechs.
Thank you. So it's interesting because you said that the space was already taken. So it makes sense that we asked Dariusz now, like, how did BLIK break into the space, with the bank, with the banking system already so strong and so innovative? So what did BLIK do to achieve extraordinary market penetration, and what set it apart from its European competitors?
It's important to mention that, like Krzysztof said, BLIK was set up 10 years ago exactly by 6 largest Polish banks. By the way, Wojciech was one of the founders at that time, once again. And of course, BLIK is just, I would say, a fruit of cooperation of the largest competitors in Poland. So there was a visionary decision 10 years ago made by the stakeholders, decision makers, the CEOs of banks, and probably in the area of payments, we don't really want to compete against each other. Competition is probably somewhere else than between us. We are not going to mBank Pay, PKO Pay, Alior Pay, and everybody has got its own pay, and whose pay is better than the other pay, which is something what we see in other countries, where there is no really big tradition of cooperation in the banking sector. So I think that the huge success of BLIK over the last 10 years was really profiting from this unique position of being set up, of being invested, and not principally in terms of money, but in terms of resources, of time, of business attention of those banks. You probably know very well that resources, especially IT resources in banks, this is a very valuable asset. And in order to profit from it and to come up with really effective, efficient, I would say fantastic products to the market that are really accepted by customers and bring scale, this is something that was a challenge for us, and it was a kind of dream 10 years ago. I would say that when we were setting up our first business model, we were targeting with our payment solution more to physical stores, ATMs. This was the reality of the business 10 years or 12 years ago in Poland. The decision of putting BLIK much more on, I would say, digital commerce, on e-commerce side, on, I would say, instant P2P transfers, and positioning BLIK as a modern type of payment, not competing against, I would say, old-fashioned plastic card, not against traditional competition against Visa and MasterCard's global scheme giants and so on, but really going forward with, let's say, the most promising technologies. This was the decision that has been made, and right now we are super happy because being in a unique position in Europe, we might say that in terms of number of transactions, we are the largest mobile payment scheme in Europe. In terms of the e-commerce penetration in Poland, reaching 70% of all e-commerce transactions in Poland that are just simply done with BLIK. People are simply BLIKing on a daily basis. Those of you who are from Poland, you know very well. Those of you who are from abroad, BLIKing is just, paying online or transferring money from one account to another instantly, just simply by means of mobile banking application. But everything was, I would say, elaborated in the ecosystem of the banking sector. So this I would say it was, I would say, maximum usage of the resources that we were given for a certain moment of time. And we do hope to keep this momentum in the longer perspective as well.
If I could just add, I mean, BLIK works fantastically. I mean, if I was going to, the key success factor, I mean, it's a fantastic application. The UX is seamless. It's extremely safe, so everyone feels safe with it. I think that was one of the big value propositions. It's free for the users. And so it's amazing to think that those kind of value proposition to customers, fast, safe, free, were enough to basically capture 70% of the online transactions. So take the market share from Visa, MasterCard, and other payments providers. And I would say those three things are very critical in banking.
Wow, that is very impressive. And maybe continue on you, Michal. So from a global benchmarking perspective, how do you think the current state of Polish infrastructure compared to the rest of the world from what you're seeing in deal flows and all that? And what does success look like for Poland?
Okay, so when we look and benchmark the Polish financial sector globally, I want to highlight that in the retail segment and maybe in the small business segment, Poland is a leader. Okay, it's one of, I don't know, if you look globally, one of the top 5 countries globally in terms of what customers receive and what they're able to use. I would say in the kind of larger corporates and mid-corporates, Poland is far behind, I would say, other countries. So we have to kind of balance, where the strengths are. And then I think the other element of the financial sector, which I said earlier, is very, very strong in Poland, is this essentially supporting for high value-added processes and support of global banks. So supporting, I don't know, UBS, JP Morgan, State Street, Standard Chartered. So really the HSBC, the creme de la creme of global banks, all have significant operations in Poland, and this builds a lot of capability, people, skills, brings in talent, also globally, who work in those centers, and then forces the market, or allows the market to be very competitive. What does it need to do more? I would say, maybe even more competition, and that's what has been driving the success to date. And I think the idea that UniCredit will return to the Polish market, having left here in 2017, I think, is a good sign. And I would argue if you could even have more competition, you could drive further innovation and further jobs and really expand this sector. And I'll just go back to what I said earlier, and I'll probably say it one more time. I think to do that, the kind of the anchor around the neck is over-regulation and then also taxes. And if you can remove, and we've seen, and when you benchmark that to, I don't know, London, to Lithuania, to Vilno, to Amsterdam, they've been able to balance that much, much better. And I think that's the to-do for the Polish banking and financial sector.
Very interesting. So those of you who might want to help in this space, you know who to reach out to. And I want to talk a little bit about what Michal was just saying about UniCredit transaction. And obviously asking Wojciech, who's the star of this transaction, a little more questions. So this brings us to one of the biggest signal in the market, right? UniCredit's acquisition of Aion Bank and Vodeno, bringing UniCredit back to the Polish economy. Do you think it's an inflection point or is it an anomaly? Is this a one-off transaction? Is this a signal that more international capital is coming back to Poland. Specifically, let me ask you this question. Why is UniCredit returning to Poland now? Like, why is it now? And why through your companies? What makes them strategically attractive to them?
Okay. There are two parts of this question and two parts of the transaction. The transaction is Aion and Vodeno. So for return on the Polish market, the answer is probably very simple. It's a common knowledge in Milan that one of the biggest strategic mistakes for the groups were to withdraw from Poland and withdraw from Turkey. I think it doesn't need to have an MBA from MIT to figure out that abandoning the most promising markets is not the greatest strategic move. But at that time, the banks were acting under a different regime of capital constraint and cleaning after the 2008 financial crisis. I believe that if this is the only investment logic, is to, if that would be the only logic to buy Aion and Vodeno to return to the Polish market, then probably on the market you'll see many more opportunities to re-enter with the scale, with the muscles, with the brand names and so on. I believe that the true logic behind the investment was to buy a platform that is able to, together with the brand name and the capital strength of UniCredit, to roll out throughout Europe. And it was already announced that we will be moving into West European countries. And I think this is another part of the discussion that we should have, because I see here is shaping tomorrow, and at the same time we're discussing about mBank, the story 20 years ago, BLIK 10 years ago. Now I think that if we look at a little bit closer, look at from different angles. Klarna will not be able to grant a single loan without the Polish operations. Revolut will not be able to run without the Polish facility of anti-money laundering and transaction screening. JP Morgan Chase, expanding throughout Europe, would not be able even to exist without the 300-strong IT team that is built here in Poland. And I think the capabilities of IT, of own core banking system, your own technology from the very bottom, to expand it, to add capital and brands, would allow us to grow throughout Europe, because I think we strongly believe that we are in an inflection point, not in Poland, we are in an inflection point in Europe, where Prodi tells us that Europe will get nowhere without the common capital market and without the common banking market. And our new owners from UniCredit, we strongly believe that we must build a pan-European platform. And I'm proud that Aion and Vodeno might be an important part in building the structures. As the same way as that I was always crossing fingers for mBank expanding abroad, and I was always crossing fingers to make sure that BLIK is not the fantastic Polish story, but is a story on the European scale, at least.
If I may just shortly add to that, I mean, Wojciech covered most of that, but I think it's worth saying that Poland is more and more attractive market from a client's perspective as well. So I'm sure it was mentioned today that this is one of the fastest growing economies in Europe, not only today, but for quite a few years. But I think the clients and therefore people in Poland are getting richer, and that creates a lot of opportunity, and I think especially for banks, for the investment firms. Just to put that into perspective, the UBS is publishing the number of millionaires in each country per year. They have a nice research, you can Google that. So in Germany and in UK and in France, there is around 2 million millionaires, 2 million each. In Poland, just 5 years ago, it was like 50,000. So it's like a lot less, like 40 times less. Now, but that has changed from 50,000 to 80,000 to 120. It's now 200,000. So it's one of the fastest growing pace of the number of millionaires. And obviously, it's not only the super rich people, but the middle class is getting richer as well. And that creates an area for capturing some of that potential. And the final one thing that is changing, Poland started economy in the early 1990s, as you said. So it's been 30 years since it was developing. And we've never had a concept of a so-called old money. We didn't have a concept of succession planning, of inheritance. But now we're getting the first wave. And that wave needs to be captured. That wealth needs to be transitioned. And therefore, there's quite a lot of interest in both the banking industry, but also the investment industry to enter that market, because the rosy times are still in Poland ahead of you. Well, in some countries, you're already, trying to find where would I find the reason for growth. So this macroeconomic perspective, I think it's hugely important here too.
Very interesting. Thank you. And I wanted to point this next question to Michal. Like, what about you? From your deal flow, what do you see? Is the acquisition of UniCredit a tipping point? Has it been continuous, or do you think this is a specific case?
Okay, I mean, short answer, don't know. So it just happened. I hope what Wojtek said, that Aion will decide to go pan-European, that they have significant operations in Poland. I think this will be another example where the Polish kind of infrastructure played a significant role in other banks going abroad. So there was the example of Chase, which is part of JP Morgan in the UK, huge success in that market. CEO is Polish, the back office is all run out of Poland, so it has a very strong Polish element to it.
Yeah, he moved from Warsaw to London,
yes,
so that's a different example.
We work together, you work together, so yeah. And another example, Revolut, which also has significant operations here. So I think if Aion can be another example like that and actually do it pan-European, because those other, then I think it's another brick in the puzzle, and which gives us a good reputation and a foot in the door, rather than just receiving these sorts of services, but actually playing a part in it. What I'd love to see is a Polish entity doing that, and that's why we were all rooting for mBank, which has a shareholder from Germany, but is also very Polish. And I think we're all rooting for BLIK to do that. And I think here there's a lot of opportunity for BLIK in an incredible thing that they've done to start to expand that to other markets. Yeah.
So Dariusz, a lot of pressure on you. A lot of work to do. What is your strategy for expanding BLIK then? What are you thinking? Are you staying B2C focused, or would you consider entering B2B to challenge players like Stripe, for example?
Actually, Stripe is one of our strategic partners, like Adyen, Nuvei, Vivacom, and really hundreds of other payment services providers operating across Europe, across the globe, to provide payments to the merchants. So actually, in terms of the business model, there is actually no plan to change dramatically our business model. So being purely a B2B2C even, I would put this kind of definition to our platform, means that on one side we do think that there is a huge space of operation for BLIK continuing providing payments for banks and for mobile banking applications. We are actually lucky to operate over the last 10 years in a market when mobile banking apps were extremely advanced. There's a huge competition still. There is a huge competition between banks on different features, on different functionalities of mobile banking apps. And once we leave Poland to other countries, maybe I will not mention specifically which ones, but this dramatically changes in a lot of countries. There are still countries in which basic operations in the mobile banking apps are very, very limited, I would say. And sometimes the app serves more for a marketing tool than a really full potential executing digital strategy of the bank. So this is what we really observe. So this is sometimes a challenge, bringing and educating and evangelizing, I would say, that apps, mobile banking apps can serve for payments. So definitely we want to stay in the same business model. If you're talking about the strategy, in many situations, this comes to the area of operations, to which part of Europe, where we want to go, which kind of banking groups are especially of interest in our strategy. So first of all, I would say that it's important to mention that we are not the only one in Europe in terms of account-to-account and instant payment solutions. We might say that there are some Spanish people happy about their instant payment solutions. There are some Portuguese super happy about them. We know very well Nordics consolidating their solutions for years, being famous for cashless, let's say, behaviors, monetizing and using their, I would say, their digital solutions in payments that they're providing to customers. But if you take a look at Europe as a whole, there's a huge, tremendous space that is of particular interest, I would say, for BLIK and for the business model that we are providing, which is much more based on Central Europe, with some, I would say, additional countries to Central Europe. And to be honest, right now, if you take a look at Europe, what we really observe in terms of digital payments and the real competition that is happening right now is that we see an initiative of, I would say, German and French platform EPI, which is right now really scaling the solution from scratch right now to the French citizens and German citizens. This is a great obligation for us right now, just to be a little bit of a counterpart and really bring an effective business model for banks. What is extremely important in this instant payment, I would say, era, business case in many situations is really forgotten. To make money on instant payments, and especially to make money and to bring money to participants of the platform is not that easy. In many, I would say in the past, talking a little bit about the past, Wojtek, but in the past, I would say Visa and MasterCard was really providing interchange fee for banks. We're competing on the cost with PSPs, acquirers, merchants, and so on. There was a margin for the scheme. If you attribute exactly the same business case in Europe for instant payment platforms, in many countries it's even forbidden to make money on this. So this becomes a little bit crazy. So we do think that having an effective, in terms of the business model, and of course customer experience, solution is our plan for, especially from the Central European region, I would say. We have already started with 2 countries, with Slovakia being our first country in which we positioned our technology, not just to conquer Slovakia, because this is just a very, I would say, small country, but really to implement our business model and our operations to be fully scalable in the Eurozone. And this is how we are planning to achieve our goals, going through Bratislava, from Warsaw through Bratislava to the Eurozone. On the other hand, we could not, I would say, forget Romania being the second biggest country in terms of the perspective of growth of e-commerce in Europe, in Central Europe after Poland. So this is also the country when we are animating our efforts. But I wanted to tell you what is also very specific about Central Europe is that, unlike Poland, Central Europe is very much consolidated without a few large banking groups. We have a very competitive market here in Warsaw. All decisions still can be made here in Warsaw in terms of the strategy of banks. 10 years ago, CEOs gathered together and made the decision, and it happened. It's really impossible to make this kind of decision in Bratislava or even in Bucharest, for example, right now, because these are headquarters in Milan or in Vienna that are already deciding on the strategy. So this is really important for us just to move intelligently in the region, maybe not in a fragmented country-by-country way, but on a more consolidated approach.
Okay, thank you for that. So a question to Wojciech. Very personal question and just maybe a short answer to the audience. are you going to be taking a leadership role after the acquisition? What are your plans? I think it's just for the audience interest.
This, okay. I think 20 years ago, I was hired by Joseph Wanzer to join a team of BPH at that time and to create one of the leading banks in Poland. And 20 years ago, he looked to me at that time as a kind of old man that makes too much of a risk hiring 40-year-old guys. And I think he was younger than I am right now. So my goal is basically to make sure that the Aion Vodeno, together with UniCredit, we will create a place where another 30, 40-year-old young guys will grow, will develop themselves, and will be able finally to break through outside of Poland to go to other countries. And this is my personal mission, to spend another years of my life to make sure that the people, the hardworking, creative individuals, not only the employees, but also the suppliers, also the partners, would find the environment to cooperate, to grow and to flourish.
Okay, thank you. And a final question to all of you. If there's one specific action that everyone in this audience, whether they're regulators, investors, entrepreneurs, or future innovators, could take to significantly accelerate Warsaw's emergence as a financial hub, what would it be? And let's go around in a quick firing round.
Well, I would say move to Poland, if you're not from Poland yet. Join one of the amazing banks or one of the amazing startups like BLIK, Aion, and try to contribute your value. I do believe that this is just the beginning of Poland, with the talent, with the character, and still with the potential of this society. And so that I wouldn't scare you too much of the banking, because I started that the banking is like all done and dusted and it's like super innovative. The banking will be changing as well massively. Just to prove that, we at mBank know that in 2 years' time, 40% of our clients will be Gen Z. So this will be the most frequent cohort of all of our clients. And to be honest, we didn't design our processes for the Gen Z yet. I mean, they were designed by millennials. And we believe that everyone would love the mBank app. But the new generation, they don't call, they text or they voice text. They don't like technology, apparently. So in my age, my generation is proud of carrying like the super watches, super phones. Newer generations, apparently, they want to get rid of it. So the technology function needs to be transparent, and they want things to be happening by themselves as opposed to adding them additional features. So I think there's still a lot more opportunities and a lot more innovation that can be done. We're definitely going to be exploring it, and I think as mBank and as Poland, whoever is not from Poland, please move, and that would be my one action. I think there's amazing things we can do here together, either in mBank or any other of those amazing companies.
I really won't be original. Really, Krzysztof, you took my thought. We need to be more open, and we need to invite more colleagues from other countries living in Warsaw. I'm really very much convinced that in order to be effective with our products and our strategies in other countries in Europe, we need to welcome, I would say, citizens of those countries in our city here in Warsaw as well. In terms of culture, in terms of different type of pitching our products. You know, we are very famous in Poland for being extremely competent in the IT. I think we are experts in regulations. We have fantastic lawyers and consultants. I think we need to improve in terms of, I would say, selling capabilities. And this is what someone gains when really lives with different cultures, with different people. So come over to Warsaw once again.
Yeah, I think we're entering a phase of a lot of even more change. And I know change has been a lot recently, but we've got, geopolitical, we've got, this idea of regulation, deregulation, we've got, institutions pushing to rethink how things are done. And I think when I think about the future, next 5 to 10 years, I think the landscape of financial services could look very, very different. And I would encourage then those of you to think about, okay, so how could that look and what would be my role in it? And examples of where that innovation could be, it could be around things that are pan-European or even global in terms of how they're delivering their services. It could be around areas of expanding what it means to be a financial institution dramatically. So not just transactions and credits and deposits, but a lot of very, very different features and services around that. And we have that capability to do that. And I would, I think it's a good time to enter financial services and to kind of ride this wave of taking advantage of the strong position that financial institutions have with their clients and leveraging it into new and unthought of yet services that can be provided to those clients.
From my side, it's very simple. Bring us GPUs, we have the data, we have the people, and we will build the amazing new Gen AI here out of Warsaw and out of Krakow.
So another vote for coming to Warsaw, but first go and study at MIT. That would be the ideal solution.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your candor, for your strategic thinking, or for what I hope will prove to be a turning point of how we all in the audience talk about Poland's financial future. What we've heard here today is clear. Warsaw isn't competing for recognition. It's already recognized. It's competing for leadership in the European market. The infrastructure is here. The talent is here. You cannot have, you cannot ask for more. You cannot ask for more. No. The ambition is here. The only question now is, will we execute? Thank you again to our panelists and for all of you for joining us in this moment of serious conversation and serious opportunity too. Let's give our panelists a big round of applause.